Thank you, Amina. Thank you for opening this conference with these words that for us are very important. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here and properly to have the possibility to stress this point that's also the main claim of our conference, to bridge the gap between science policy and from policy to implementation, so to transfer knowledge to action. Thank you very much, Amina. And properly to transform knowledge and to try to foster ideas and new possibilities on the topic of One Health. There is an experience that has recently born in, we can say, in Europe, that has been to create like an entire faculty related to One Health. And so it's an honor and a pleasure to invite to the floor, that will be virtual because she will join us by remote, to give the floor to Professor Marcella Trombetta, that is Dean of the Department of Science and Technology for Sustainable Development at One Health at Campus Biomedico di Roma. I don't know if Professor Trombetta is online and can hear us. Yes. So I ask also the technician if they can connect Professor Marcella. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm here.
Professor Trombetta, hi.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks a lot for this
invitation.
I'm really very sorry to not be there, but I had
one second. We cannot hear you.
I listen you. If you agree, I start with my presentation. May I start with my presentation?
Just 1 second, Marcella, that we cannot hear you. So ask the technician to open the voice to Professor Trombetta, please. Okay, Professor Trombetta, please. Okay, no audio.
My audio is well here.
Okay, perfect. We can hear you very clearly now.
Okay.
So thank you very much for being with us. And it's a pleasure and honor to have you here. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm really proud to be here, and we're sorry for not being in Barcelona. I would like to share my presentation. Okay. Is my presentation okay?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to share with you a journey into the origins of the concept of One Health. I start with, I have a problem, pardon. Okay. I start with this very famous painting by Paul Gauguin that represents the life cycle. In the corner are reported 3 questions: where we come from, who we are, and where we are going. We come from the 19th century, and this was a very important book concerning the cholera transmission by water supply. The 19th century, we started to work when we were children, as soon as our legs could support us. And if we weren't killed by the mines, by the weavers, or by working as seminary sweeps, parasite killed us due to the terrible hygienic condition. Indeed, the new formed Rockefeller Foundation in 1920 financed the most important campaign to eradicate hookworm, a parasite that exterminated entire families. A few years earlier, the father of zoonosis, Rudolf Virchow, he recognized the link between human and animal health. We know that he demonstrated that the roundworm Trichinella spiralis in swine was the same of human. He coined the term zoonosis to indicate an infectious disease that is passed between humans and animals. And then the last century, the 20th. The century in which man activities were a real planetary geological force with an anthropic effects that increased tenfold in the second half. In the 50s, we were proud to see the beaches of Long Beach and Los Angeles dotted with the oil dress ring as far as the eye could see. And the oil and gas activities were so important that they were immortalized in the unforgettable movie, The Giant. And then the 60s. In the 60s, people left the countryside to move into the city to work in the factories. And therefore, there was a really great need of pesticide for intensive crops. As reported in this panel, DDT, powerful insecticide harmless to humans, it was used to eradicate malaria, but it was sprayed directly on children to eliminate lice and in-house for the control of household pests. The massive use of DDT conduced to the publication of the very famous book Silent Spring, that starts with the sentence, "Early mornings are strangely silent, but once they were filled with the beauty of bird song," because the book, an environmental science book, report the environmental damage caused by the indiscriminate use of pesticide. This book gave rise to the national ban on DDT for agricultural uses and the creation of the United States Environmental Protection Agency. In the same years, Calvin Schwab, in his book Veterinary Medicine and Human Health, first edition, he coined the term one medicine. And he calls for a unified approach against zoonosis that used both human and veterinary medicine. Then years later, in 1972, the world community realized the need of principles concerning the human environment. And so it's very famous, the publication of the Declaration of the United Nations Conference of Human Environment. But in the 70s, one of the most famous with the stellar cast movie was Cassandra Crossing. Because in my opinion, the movies, the cinema, is a thermometer of the society. The plot of this movie was that two terrorists entered in a biological weapon laboratory and contract a terrible virus. One of the two manages to get on the train headed to Stockholm, where he infects some passengers. A train infected with the virus crosses Europe on its way and on its death. A few years later, another very important movie has been The Thing, of John Carpenter's. The protagonist of this movie is a dog infected by an organism from another planet capable of engulfing terrestrial living beings to reproduce them perfectly. The years 80th, the years of the Bortland report about our common future, that produced the definition, the actual definition of sustainable development as that report that sustainable development meets the needs of the present generation without compromise the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And let's go with Agenda 21. In the years 90, one of the most famous and important movies of the 90s has been 12 Monks. We are in the 2035, and the prisoner is sent into the past to investigate the facts that led to the extinction of the 99% of humanity and force the survivors to live underground to escape the contagion of a lethal virus. 2 years later, in 1997, we signed the Kyoto Protocol. We decided to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases with a very important program. But in 2001, with the movie Artificial Intelligence, is reported that in the 22nd century, our planet was devastated by the greenhouse effects and the rising ocean, which have submerged many of the most beautiful and important cities in the world. In the 2000 years, the first One Earth conference, organized by the Rockefeller University with the Wildlife Conservation Society. In this first conference, the 12 recommendations, the Manhattan principles were written because, as reported at the beginning of the document, recent outbreaks remind us that human and animal health are intimately connected. A broader understanding of health and disease demand a unique approach, achievable only through a consilience of human, domestic, animal, and wildlife health towards One Health. But One Health becomes a recommended approach in a political reality only in 2008 in the International Ministerial Conference on Avian and Pandemic Influenza. 1 year later, CDC decided to open the One Health department. And in that years, I was the PI of this European project concerning the critical infrastructure protection with the title Security of European Food Supply Chain, because when we are in a hurry, we say, I eat a sandwich. And we believe that is a simple system, but it's really complex. Austrian colleagues in the little book for big deforestation drivers, they demonstrate that to have a typical McDonald's meal in Austria, 68 factories are engaged, corresponding to 20 nations and 4 continents. In the same year, 2010, the European Union in this report declared that they has already undertaken new initiatives under the umbrella of One Health and will continue to do so in the coming years. But unfortunately, one of the most famous movies of the 2010 has been Contagion. I'm sure that you remember that the history burned when a bulldozer clears rainforest in China, disturbing bats. A bat finds shelter in a pig farm and drops an infected piece of banana that is then consumed by a pig. The pig is then slaughtered and is prepared by a chef in a Macau casino who, without washing his hand, transmits the virus to a businesswoman via an handshake. The businesswoman comes back in the United States and starts the pandemic. The problem of the food safety, salubrity concerning the start of a pandemic has been focused by the Global Risk Forum that sponsored the first One Health Summit. In the Davos One Health Action Plan is reported that today's human health management requires to be approached from an holistic One Health perspective that recognizes the systemic interconnection of human, animals, and environmental health in a close relationship to food safety. 3 years later, we seen the Agenda 2030 with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Is the 2015 and is the same year that the Holy Father Francis published the encyclical letter Laudato Si on care for our common future. And 3 years later, started the first very important European project, One Health European Joint Program. In 2022, in this paper of science, has been confirmed that the COVID-19 pandemic started from the Huanan seafood wholesale market. A terrible moment, the generation is going to be called the generation pandemic. The anthropic activity in building hospital was really heavy as never seen before. And with this, the problem of the management of waste that increased of 500% with respect before. And moreover, the fly tipping, where the fly tipping is the illegal traffic in waste for the management. In the illegal way, all the waste drop into the environment. And as reported by WHO, every year, more than almost 14 million of people are killed by environmental exposition. Environment, I would like to remember to you the great garbage patch. And that for the first time this year, in 2023, at level of United Nations Law and Crime Prevention, UN delegates reached an historical agreement on protecting marine biodiversity in internal waters. So, who is going to be the next movies in 2020 year? I hope as this marvelous village in Indonesia. But Indonesia, people are living here along the river of Citarum. Citarum is 270 kilometers long, and its mouth is right in the apparently not physical border between the Indian Ocean and the North Pacific Ocean. And in this picture, we're in a strange circular economy. this guy is collecting straws because probably someone will give him some coins. I would like to thank you with this hope to be all of us protagonists of transforming our world from the Silent Spring to have care for our common future, a common home. Thank you very much.